guys, what's up? I'm just hanging out at the Vector Space this beautiful Friday morning, and I wanted to take the time out of my day to create a super short, super simple video talking about the prop that I use with my Warhammer 40k costume called Manreaper. It's a power scythe, and it's the iconic weapon of the Death Guard Legion. I'm going to talk to you about the materials that I used to create this and some of the techniques, as well as why I made it the way I did. So super quick, we're going to look at some of the materials that I used for the main build of the prop. So the blade itself and where the handle connects to the rest of the scythe, that's actually made out of a material called XPS insulation foam. It's basically the big pink sheets you find at Lowe's and Home Depot. Super lightweight, rather affordable. We just had a bunch of scraps lying around here at the Vector Space, and I used a bunch of that with some wood glue, of course, and layered it together, and then I just had the base form for my power scythe. Of course, you might be wondering, how is all that held together without it snapping in half? And I've had a couple of people ask me, you know, how did I accomplish that? Well, it was not as difficult as you might think. I had to think about it for a minute. We also had a bunch of this PVC board sheet lying around here at the Vector Space that I had access to, and what I did was I took the pattern that I used for my power scythe blade itself, and then I just made a PVC board copy of it, and much like an Oreo cookie, I sandwiched it in between the XPS foam sheets. Of course, that's not all I did, because I took some half-inch dowel like this, and I cut it in sections, drilled holes in the pattern, and then just stuck it through, much like a skeleton. So the inside of the power scythe itself has this interior skeleton to help give it some strength and rigidity. The main haft of the power scythe is made out of PVC pipe. It's not this particular type. This is a half-inch diameter PVC pipe. This is just a scrap that I have to show you. I used a 1-inch, I think it was a 6-foot tall, 1-inch diameter PVC pipe that I just heated up and shaped with a table vise and a heat gun. The materials that I used that I don't have here in front of me, I used hot glue gun and Titebond wood glue. Those are the two adhesives that I used. I didn't use any contact cement. I didn't use any super glue, nothing. This is probably the least toxic build that I've ever made. And I threw this thing together. This was like the last prop that I threw together for the entire cosplay build. And it came along pretty well for the amount of time that I put into it. Of course, I do want to remake it. It's starting to have some issues, like, for example, where the blade connects to the rest of the power scythe. It's gotten loose and it's cracked on the inside, so that's also a structural error on my part. The skeleton for the scythe is actually made in two parts, and it's held together by hot glue. So that was kind of to be expected. There's just two strips of leather holding the blade on at this point. But for all the extra accoutrements for the power scythe itself, I used just varying sizes and dowels, like for the rivets and what's supposed to be a little red light. I used just dowels, and I shaped them and I sanded them and stuff. For the divots and all the corrosion looking effects, that was just with a Dremel tool that I had access to. And for all the cuts and the dings and the dents in the actual blade, I used the bandsaw to cut out those notches and stuff. It was like really cool. It was a lot cooler than I thought it would be when it came out in the very end. And for the wood grain effect that I have going down the haft of the blade, I used a technique with a cutting disc. Yeah, it was a cutting disc. It's a Dremel cutting disc. I used that, and I just ran it up and down the side, and I made this really cool wood grain effect. Of course, it's a lot toned down compared to the actual 40K model when you look at the two, but that's really, you know, how I did it. And then the rest is just sculpting and gluing. So that about sums up how I built the prop that I used for my costume. And I just wanted to show you how simple it was to make, how, you know, all it took was a little bit of time and elbow grease and to crank that out. I didn't use any normal EVA foam for it. Well, I take that back. I did use like 2 pieces for the sensor bits in the top part of the blade, but that was just scrap material I had lying around. I didn't feel like, you know, shaping another piece of XPS foam. But yeah, it was super simple, super easy. It was a lot quicker than I thought it would be, and so yeah, I just wanted to show off, you know, how I made it. I wanted to show you guys that it's pretty easy to make props out of XPS foam. The reason why I made it the way that I did instead of using normal EVA foam is because I had to think about wearing this costume around for up to 5 hours without a handler. Because when I was building this thing, a lot of my friends, they were busy that weekend, or I didn't, you know, I couldn't wrangle a handler in time. And so when I threw this thing together, I had to think about, you know, how heavy is it going to be? Do I want to, you know, have to sit it down every 5 minutes because it's so heavy? And the weight difference between XPS foam and EVA foam is huge when you compare the two for long periods of time. All in all, I'd say the power side weighs maybe 2 pounds at best. You know, Dragon Con's coming up, and I'm thinking maybe I can rebuild it, make a new one. In a future video, I can probably even, you know, add a sound effect or 2 to it. That would be really awesome if I could do that. Probably not in, what, 20 days, I think? I can't remember. But I'm going to be taking this thing to Dragon Con and build up to that, you know, hype. I wanted to do a video on how I made my power size Manreaper for my costume. So, but I gotta get going, so I hope you guys, you know, stay creative wherever you are, and, you know,